My name is Charlie Banks, and I'm a 17-year-old kid who started the Young Minds Podcast to spread the Word of God. It is my goal to do this podcast. You learn, you laugh, you cry, whatever it may be. I just hope that you enjoy it and maybe grow in your relationship with Christ. But just remember, this thing that the Lord is starting is way bigger than any of us. So let's get after it. Alrighty, welcome back to the podcast, or welcome to the podcast, man. I'm so glad to have you on today. I know been having some issues, but I'm so glad to have you on. And if you could just introduce yourself, and we'll just keep on going.
Yeah, man, I'm Jake, and like you said, we've been having a lot of difficulties. It's like we're trying to put something out that Satan doesn't want out or something.
Yeah, man. I mean, 100%. I mean, this has happened to me before, and I just want to say shout out to Donovan, man, for hosting it for us so we can get this out. But if you could just go into your testimony a little bit, and then we'll just keep on going.
Yeah, so like I said, my name is Jake. I make music. I make Christian hip hop music. I'll go ahead and start out in my childhood, though. I grew up in a smaller town in Kansas called Parsons. I grew up in a Pentecostal church, so very, rules oriented. Um, I don't know if you know anything about the denomination Pentecostal or not, maybe.
All I know is that they that I've heard, at least, like they like to, they get really excited when worship happens. Um,
Yeah, they do that.
you know,
Yeah. Um,
but no, I haven't
so
heard much.
yeah, so the church I grew up in, I feel like I kind of got the worst part of Christianity, if that makes sense. The thing that people say is that Christians are judgmental and
Mm-hmm.
there's too many rules and that kind of thing, and that's kind of what I grew up around. So that's kind of what I grew up thinking as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't feel that my church was very accepting of new people or people of color or people
Mm.
that believe differently than they did. It was kind of they kind of just kept it in house, and there was a lot of rules that you had to follow and things like that.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, outside of church, man, I grew up. I played basketball a lot, and music was always big for me. That was kind of basketball and music were like my two escapes from
Mm-hmm.
reality. If that makes sense.
Yep.
Um, I grew up with a mom and a dad who were split up, so I spent most of my time with my mom. I did spend some time with my dad and his family, but I feel as though I kind of ended up raising myself a little bit because my mom was disabled like my
Mm-hmm.
whole life. So I grew up kind of taking care of her and taking care of myself, kind of being the man of the house as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I won't go too deep into that, but it
Right.
was just it's one of those things where you're forced to grow up pretty fast. And so I was,
Mm-hmm.
getting myself ready for school and
Yeah.
doing the dishes and that kind of deal. So I'm
Yeah.
I'm also kind of thankful for that though to this day.
I mean,
But
but
yeah, man.
for when it comes to that though, could you? I mean, do you really say that? Did you really have a childhood at that point then? If you had to grow up so fast, then would you say you had one or?
Yes and no.
Yeah.
I would say in my younger years, yes. I spent a lot of time with friends and stuff like that. There was still a
Mm-hmm.
lot going on in the household that I saw a lot of things like siblings trying to commit suicide and
Mm.
um, my mother trying to commit suicide and I had siblings that were addicted to pills and that kind of thing. So I saw a lot of things that I probably shouldn't have seen, but at the same time, I did kind of have a childhood. I spent a lot of time with friends outside playing and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't really until I would say the end of middle school is when it kind of like my mom got really bad and I stopped being able to do a lot of things. Um,
Yeah.
so I didn't really get that normal high school like party or not party, but
Mm.
like that's kind of the people I was around.
Experience.
Yeah, they were
Yeah.
out partying and stuff like that, and I was kind of just in the house, taking care of my mom and listening to music and that kind of thing. So
Yeah.
basketball was always the kind of escape for me from that.
Yeah.
So
And you're probably better for it, honestly, like, because there ain't no telling what was at the what they were doing, right? Especially with high school. If I'm thinking about my high school experience now, there's no telling what some kids are doing at my school. Like, I'm not gonna get into that, but you can imagine. you know?
Hmm.
And so you have to be really, really careful, like, like where you go, what you say, whatever, whatnot, you know? Um, and so
Yeah.
I know that you talk about music is, an escape for you and so is basketball, but like, you know, how did you discover that you wanted to write and make music? Like, was it just like an instant, just, you know, thing, or
Ma-
was it a process?
Yeah, so I've been writing actually my whole life. I remember when I was in third grade, they did like a contest where somebody would write a book and you
Mm-hmm.
would like put it all together inside of you would bind it up and everything. It was like a little book you would write.
Mm-hmm.
And if your book was good enough, they'd take you to go. I don't remember what it was called, but it was some kind of authors convention at some college, and you would just kind of get to go there and watch and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I ended up going to that. So I've always just kind of been a writer. I don't know. It's always just been something I like to do, putting my thoughts down on paper. Um, Music specifically, I didn't start writing music, I don't think, until I was in like seventh grade. I just started writing lyrics down. I never really thought anything would come from it, honestly.
Mhm.
Um, it was just something I enjoyed to do, but I didn't start recording music until I was 19.
Wow. I mean, that's crazy. Like to think about though that I'm 17 years old and you started recording music at 19. Like
Yeah, yeah.
that's crazy. You know?
And like we were speaking about, like I didn't get to party and stuff a lot, but I did. I started smoking weed when I was 17, and the only
Mm-hmm.
reason I want to get into this is God has told me multiple times that I need to be very truthful and honest about the things I was doing, because
Yeah,
some people out there need to hear that, you know what I mean?
they do.
So I started smoking weed at 17, and I started drinking at 18. And so I didn't really care about much at that point other than basketball and basically just getting high or getting drunk. That's all I really cared about. So I think that might be a reason why I didn't really pursue music until I was 19. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, man, I dealt with a lot of different kinds of drugs and stuff in my like late teens, early 20s.
Yeah. And this question right here may piggyback off of what you just said, but if you could go back and tell your high school self some advice, what would it be and why?
I guess two things come to mind. One would be start making music,
Hmm.
obviously,
Yeah.
because I just can't imagine where I could have maybe been at. But at the same time, maybe it's good I didn't, because when I started, I was making secular music, and
Hmm.
so maybe that's why it took me so long to get into it, because God had a bigger plan for me on the Christian side, and it just took me a long time to realize that.
Yeah.
Second would be just be yourself, really, because I tried to be things that I wasn't a lot. I think that's why I got into drugs so heavily, because my friends were doing it and just stuff like that. And I think kids really need to hear that, like, it doesn't make you uncool just to be yourself. And like, if you don't want to do those things, don't do them. Go do things that are productive with your time and that actually mean something.
Yeah. 100%. And that's one thing for me, like talking about like being productive and doing something that really means something with your time is like for me, working at my church and helping, like, because I'll go up there like Wednesdays and Thursdays after school, and help when I can. It just, you get that sense of like, I am doing something to help. You know what I'm saying? Like, and you just feel like, it makes me feel, full. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah,
because again, I can see, because what I do is the graphics and things like that. I get to see that result, the fruit of that every Sunday. And so, like, that's a really unique responsibility the Lord's given me. Um, but 100%, like you have to find those things that make you feel that way, and the Lord will get, if you pray for them, the Lord will show you what they are. Um, but when you talked about making secular music before, but how did God transform your music to further His kingdom? Like, when did that come about?
yeah. So I'm actually in the process of writing a song about this. Godbody, the
Yeah.
producer. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so he sent me a beat, and instantly this hook just came to mind. I think I'm gonna call it 2023, but it starts off like 2019. I was going through the motions, and then
Mm-hmm.
2020, every day I'm sipping and I'm smoking, and then 21, Jesus came and told me I was chosen, and I
Mm.
think that was the year he kind of told me, like, you need to switch up what you're doing. I have a plan for you. And I honestly, so the hook goes on to say 2020 or 22, I spent the year thinking he was joking. And so
Mm-hmm.
that kind of goes back to I didn't really want to pursue it at that point because I didn't really think it was for me. I was kind of like Moses, I guess.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I can't do that. Nobody's gonna
Mm-hmm.
listen to me, you know?
That was the same thing with me in this podcast. I was like, there's no way. I'm gonna stutter over my words all the time. Like, I'm
Yeah,
gonna make a fool of myself. And I think when it comes to something like that, when you step out of your comfort zone and do something, even though you've touched into music before, like, when you're doing something for the Lord and it's out of your comfort zone a little bit, you're gonna feel like Moses a little bit, no matter what it may be. Um,
yeah.
but 100%, yeah, 100%, man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because at that point, he really came to me at like one of my lowest points. I was when he came and told me that I was on the brink of just quitting music, which okay, so I guess I should give you the full timeline of all this. Is like I'm just
Yeah.
throwing out years and
No,
ages
you're
and
good.
so I'm 25. So I started making music when I was 19, so that would be what year is that? I can't do math. Is that
Uh,
2017,
yeah.
I think. Yeah, so 2017 was when I started making music, and I went really hard at it until about 2019, 2020 when COVID shut down
Mm-hmm.
and everything kind of changed. That I kind of just stopped for a while, and in 2021 I kind of decided I wasn't going to do it anymore. Like within my head, I'd kind of decided that, and that's when he came to me. He's like, "No, you're going to do it, and you're going to do it for me." And it kind
Yeah.
of scared me, man, to be honest,
Yeah.
because like you said, it's kind of scary.
Yeah. 100%. You're like, you want me to do what now? You want me to take what I've loved for so long and I've done it this way, and now you want me to do it for you? Like, that's one thing, I can't really imagine because, of course, the podcast thing for me was just like, oh, this is a whole new thing. But for you, you had to change something that you've already kind of messed around with, and you had to there was a complete 180 in it, because you love music, but you had to, the Lord was like, now you're going to do it for me, and you had to change it, So I know that was probably something to kind of hard to digest at first. Was like, how in the world am I going to write music? That's not, what I'm saying? Like, because you've written secular songs before. Um, so was that
Yeah.
kind of like so it was kind of a shock, would you say? Like it was just like, how am I gonna do this, right?
Yeah, it was just for me, it was kind of like looking at so I had built a little bit of a fan base within
Mm-hmm.
that. Like I had done shows and I had like songs that people liked and just that kind of thing. So for me, it was kind of more of a people are gonna people who know me are gonna see everything I used to be doing, and then they're gonna call me a
Yeah.
fraud because I'm switching everything up. And like I knew God at that point, but I was doing a lot of things I shouldn't have been doing, and I wasn't following him, and I was making the wrong kind of music for the wrong reasons. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think for me, it was just I thought people were going to think I was a fraud, first of all. And then second, I was like, it's a big task, man, when God comes to you and he's like, hey, I want you to do this for me. That's a
Mm-hmm.
big, like, you feel like you're going to mess that up in a way.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Like, can you go to the next person in line? Like, I don't know if that's for me. Yeah, like they, and
yeah,
I know Donovan's talked about that before. Like he said that, like there's probably like so many more people that were in front of him to do this podcast thing, but they wouldn't follow through. But he was the one that did.
hmm
So that's something else to think about too. Imagine how many people, God put on their heart that they said, "Hey, you need to make music for me," but they didn't do it, and so He gave it to you. Like, you know, like that's just
yeah,
something to think about.
that's a good perspective. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And this question was actually given to me by Donovan for this episode. But what advice would you give your soon-to-be-born daughter that you had to learn the hard way? Like what's something that you were like, man, I wish I would have known that when I was younger.
It's okay to feel your feelings.
Mm. Yeah,
That's a big one for me because yeah, I
good
didn't
one.
like. I think my mom, she tried, but we didn't really connect in that way. My dad had no like emotional connection at all. So
Hmm.
for me, it was just kind of like I thought feelings were supposed to just stay bottled up inside of you. And this goes to all the kids. I know you're really big on the youth, and
Yeah.
so I assume you have a lot of youth listening.
Hmm.
It's okay to just let those feelings out, man.
It is. And that's one thing I know we were talking about, tonight in the group chat. I won't get into what it was specifically, but like leaning on others, like if you need like support, tell somebody, right? Because I know
Hmm.
that, especially like, guys, we don't like to do that because we have, pride and stuff, right? We want to hold that we don't think it's normal to show our emotions, like you were saying, like, that can do a lot more damage than good. And because I mean, I try to not, I mean, but it's easier said than done, especially, for people in high school. I know that for a fact, especially for a lot of youth, it's hard to do,
Yeah, and I mean, I'm
especially,
still working on it. Like my wife has been big on that.
yeah.
When we met, I was like a rock, you know. I didn't really tell anybody anything. She kind of brought it out of me.
Mm,
So yeah, I think that would be the number one thing I would tell my daughter is like, if you need anything, just come talk to me, kind of thing.
yeah. And how so as recording this, has it's weeks now, isn't it? It's not even right, or am I wrong?
You talking about the due date?
Yeah,
Yeah, so her due date was 5 days ago.
that's right. Yeah, it was 5 days ago. Yeah,
Yeah, we are waiting.
yeah, yeah, man. Well, like Donovan said, that baby's gonna do a lot of good things for the kingdom. I can tell you that much.
And I really hope so. We're doing it the right way. We got like a little prayer team together, like some members of our family that we know believe in God, a couple close friends, and we downloaded the U version, which we already had the U version, but we downloaded
Yeah,
like it's like a 2 week prayer thing for her. So
yeah,
she's already getting love, man. So yeah, I really hope so.
that's awesome. So, and now to jump into questions about our youth. So, when you look at the youth today, do you see hope, or are you worried about the future?
A little bit of both. I mean, when you see all the demonic things going on today, it's part of you wants to say there's no hope, but then again, like you got people like you're 17 years old and you're really out here, you know, making podcasts for youth about God and you're working in your church and like you're not the only one. You can't be the only one.
Right, exactly.
So I kind of see both ends of that argument, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But I
Yeah,
do have hope because like I think I was talking to Donovan about this the other day, and then somebody else had messaged me, and we were talking about how I think there's going to be a movement outside of the church. I'm not
yeah,
saying the
man.
church can't do great things, but and I think kids are going to be involved in that. You know, TikTok, all
Yeah,
these social media platforms. I think kids are going to be the ones that kind of take that over in a
yeah.
positive way.
It'll be another. If you I don't know if you saw the film, but another Jesus Revolution. I know that of course it highlighted like like Greg Glory's story, but that was not necessarily in a church. It was just around campuses, just like the Asbury revival, right? That was around in college campuses. Um, and I think was it Auburn here recently? I don't know if you saw like the article or whatever, but like there was like over I want to say 200 kids that got baptized
No, I didn't see that.
at an event. I can look at it. I'll look at it later and send it to you. But it was like a big thing. Like I think I don't know who it was, but it was one person. He might have been speaking or whatever. He just felt so moved during the service or whatever, and he went and got baptized. And then like he turned around, and there's all these kids that want to do the same thing.
Hmm.
It's like whoa, like that. I can't imagine like being there watching that. That would just blow my mind. Um, so young people today face a lot of challenges, and there's no telling when your daughter's born what challenges she's going to face if the world keeps going like it is. But I'm just praying that it's, going to go in a different direction. But, we face a lot of challenges in today's world, like with social media and everything like that, with like internet trolls and anything else that you can possibly think of. What some advice
Hmm.
would you give to someone who's finding it hard to navigate this world in a biblical way?
I would say just look to God first of all.
Yeah, man.
I feel like too many people look to their feelings or they look to social media for gratification. And there's always going to be like an empty void inside of you until you find something to fill it. And a lot of people are turning to the wrong things. And like personally, me, I had that void until I found. And I don't like I always knew Jesus, but until I sat down and had a personal relationship with him, I always
Mm-hmm.
had that void. And I was the one going to Instagram looking for gratification. And yeah, does that answer your question or?
Yeah, man, it does. I mean, 100%, because, I mean, one thing that, because people, I mean, especially young people, they go to these social media apps to look for gratification when, they're like, oh, I'm trying to navigate this world, this world in a biblical way. Well, you can't do that if you're, and I'm guilty of this too. So I'm not saying like I'm not, I don't do this. Like, you know, you can't do that if you're looking at Instagram more than you're looking at your Bible.
Hmm.
Like, and that's one thing I know for sure. Like, it's kind of funny too. One thing I never expected. I don't know. This just kind of popped in my head was, people are. I mean, it makes sense, because I, letting people know I'm a Christian, but more and more people are starting to ask me questions, and I kind of felt a little bit convicted because um I couldn't answer them, and I was like, oh, there's a problem here. I need to, like there is a problem. I need to pray about it and study more. Because I felt bad, like I couldn't answer somebody's question, to help them further understand, you know, what more about Jesus, right? And it felt, because this was like in class one day or something, and it felt good that they
Yeah.
were asking me, sure, but I was like, part of me was like, man, it kind of bothered me a little bit. And I did, ask some people. I was like, so what is this question? But still, I mean, the fact that I didn't know, and there were probably some simple answers too. And the fact that I didn't know, I was like, hmm, it just kind of hit me in a different way. But
Yeah, I understand that
mm,
for sure. I had a similar situation at my job not too long
yeah,
ago.
yeah, man,
Um, I mean, we can do our best though. I think one thing God always brings me back to though is like our job is to plant seeds. Our job
yeah,
isn't to like fully bring them into a relationship with God because
nope,
that's what He does, So we just got to plant the seeds.
yep, 100%. And like, and it's crazy to think that you don't know that one message you sent to somebody or that one word you said or whatever just planted a seed and you don't know what it's going to do, right? And I say that with this podcast all the time. You don't know because it goes to places other than the US, right? But I can't see who specifically is listening in those other countries. Well,
Yeah,
and so I won't know until I get to heaven what impact this podcast has had on people. And that's so cool to think about, like, because it's gone, I counted the other day, it's like 11 countries,
hmm,
which is mind blowing to me that my voice and everybody else's that has been on, in less than a year, because it's not even been a year yet, has listened and or they've listened and hopefully have gotten something out of it. And I know they're going to get something out of this one too, especially since we've the second time trying to record it. Hurricane and the technical problems, huh?
yeah, it was
Uh,
crazy because yeah,
yeah,
what was it like the day before, the 2 days before the
yeah.
hurricane?
It was a day because I tried to hold out as much as possible because I was like, we'll see what happens, like I might be able to find the internet, whatever. And then turns out I was without power for 4 days,
Hmm.
so it was something else, I'll tell you, because and we're actually still cleaning up debris. I mean, I passed a landfill the other day. There's the biggest pile of trees and like and stuff everywhere.
I
It is
see.
insane. Like and I was like, man, this is. I mean, I don't even know. There's probably stuff that's still there's power lines still down and stuff. I don't know. It's going to probably take months to get all that cleaned up. You know?
Well, it's good you guys were at least safe though.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, you got that right because we were let's see, had 30 plus trees down, and none of them landed on the house, and none of them landed on my dad's workshop over here. The only thing that got
Well,
destroyed was the fence, and really, we don't care about the fence. So, you know,
yeah, that's great.
yeah, we're extremely thankful, and I'm extremely thankful for all of you guys. When I was texting y'all, like, talking about giving us prayers and stuff, because it was a scary time, because we had my town's never experienced as big of a hurricane as that one, like
Really.
ever. I mean, because if we did, it was like an Outer Bands or it was something else. Like it wasn't like, or if it came over, it was always weaker. Which I know it had weakened to a Cat 2, but still, we had never had a Cat 2 come over us with the eye coming right over us. You know, um,
Yeah,
and so
that's
it
wild.
it was wild. But I'm so thankful for all of you, and I know I didn't, uh, and I know because I actually recorded the episode about that today. And I forgot to mention his name, but Jesse in our group chat, I'm so thankful for him because he was willing to come an hour from his house to give me anything if I needed it.
Really.
Which is yeah, which was a big blessing, because I guess he only lives an hour from me.
I see.
Small world, right?
Yeah, very
um,
small.
but For my final question, why do you think some people, especially young people, often run away when they hear the name Jesus?
I think because they put the name Jesus and religion together, and
Mm.
I'm kind of a big proponent of. It's not that I don't believe in religion. I just believe more in a relationship. And I think
Mm-hmm.
Jesus wants us to have a relationship with him. He wants us
Yep.
to come talk to him. He wants us to share our problems. He wants us to thank him for the things he's done. And I think a lot of people, which I say this because I was one of those people, I thought that Jesus was, judgmental and that
Mm.
if I didn't follow all the rules, he wasn't going to like me and that kind of thing. And I think
Yeah.
that's just a problem that has been kind of cultivated in our society. And yeah, Jesus just wants you to come talk to him,
Yeah,
like
man.
he literally sat with sinners his whole life and preached to them and helped them and healed them. And he doesn't care that you're a sinner. He just wants you to come talk to him. So
Nope.
that would be the big thing for
Exactly.
me.
Yeah, man. And I know that, uh, for sure, especially like again with young people, it's just like it's crazy. You mention the name and they don't. Well, I say that, but like, I think that's honestly a very small percentage because, at least in my experience, kids will want to hear you out often
Hmm.
than not. They'll at least listen to what you have to say. It may not change their mind, but at least they're listening. You know what I'm saying? They're not just tuning you out. Like, because I know a lot of adults nowadays, if they, say if they're like 50, 60 years old, right? They're set in their ways, because they've lived, over half their life, they're set in their way. It's harder for them to, believe in Jesus, right? Rather than, I
Hmm.
would say, a teenager or a kid because that again they've lived half their life, and that's one thing. um I've tried to navigate in different parts of my family. I'm like, my gosh, this is difficult, like, I mean, not to talk to them about it because they will listen, but just to for like just to say get them to church or whatnot, it's difficult. I know that's something that probably everybody has struggled with or will at some point, trying to see if you can get somebody to come to church with you. um but
Yeah.
yeah.
And if I could just say one thing on that,
Yeah, man, go ahead.
I've seen somebody who literally claimed to be an atheist, like one of me and my wife's close friends. He claimed,
Yeah.
God wasn't real, this and that. And all we did was talk to him. He always wanted to hear about it, which was interesting to me, because he's claiming God isn't real, but he's always asking us questions about it. So that kind of told us he wanted to hear more.
Yeah.
And over the last like 2.5 years, like we didn't do anything crazy. We just talked to him about what we knew, and now he goes to church with us every weekend, and he's in
That's
the
so
choir
awesome.
at our church.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
and all it takes,
you talk
like,
about
you're
like,
just planting seeds.
yeah, man. You talk about that transformation, it's crazy how fast it can happen once it gets a hold of somebody. Like,
Hmm.
um, when it comes to my testimony, like, I was saved on Easter and then the next week I was baptized, right? Well, I had not been going to my church for like, I went like 3 Sundays and then that happened already. I want in. Like, I was ready. Like, and I
Yeah,
know it's different for everybody, but like, um, because I think, I mean, again, this is different for everybody because your relationship starts in different places. But for me, I think it was like I've always wanted one. I just didn't know where to start, and God used my friends for that, which was really really cool to see. You know, um, because I remember, I think it was ironically on a Halloween night or something like that. We were talking, and one of them like was so open about their faith, right? And I was just so amazed by it. It's like because you don't hear kids like so open about it these days
hmm,
unless if you're in church or whatnot, you don't hear it. And and then I started asking questions, and the rest is history. But um, it's stuff like that that just blows me away. Or like, and I've told the story before. Talking about how amazing God is, right? Like, I don't know if you've heard me talk about it, but the story about my teacher and his daughter. Well, it was in 11th grade. His daughter, came down with cancer, and she's like 5 years old, man. It was really upsetting I mean, and we were like, and me and my friend AJ, we said he came to me with an idea. He said, "Why don't we make a GoFundMe?" And I said, "That's a great idea. However, let's just like raise the money and just give it to them because GoFundMe takes some of the profit,
Hmm.
and so we did, and so our goal was like $200, dude. We ended up raising triple that. We raised 820 back, and this was during the holiday season. Um,
Well,
and it was just like that is my so when I talk about God providing, that's my story for that, and it blows my mind. Like every time I think about it, um, I mean,
yeah, he
because
always provides.
oh yeah, 100%, yeah, man. But if you have any final thoughts that you'd like to say before we get out of here, I know that we've with all the technical problems, we probably would have been done by now, but it's all right, you know. But if you have any final thoughts, you just I want to
Yeah,
hear them if you do.
yeah, so I know you have a lot of kids that listen to this, so
Mm-hmm.
if I could just speak directly to them, he doesn't like God, Jesus, like he doesn't care what you're doing right now. Like if you're smoking weed, if you're addicted to pornography, if you're drinking, if you're having sex outside of marriage, all this stuff, like all these things you might be doing. He doesn't care about any of that. He does care because you're sinning, but he just wants to talk to you. He wants to have a relationship with you. He wants to save you from that because like I
Mm-hmm.
was in all of that too.
Yeah.
And it's not a good place to be mentally or physically. And if you just talk to him and let him come into your life, I guarantee you'll see the difference.
Yeah, man. 100%. You nailed it right on the head. And I have really, really enjoyed this conversation, and I'm so glad that we finally got this to work out because I know we were really,
Yeah.
really trying, and I know that somebody's going to be blessed by this conversation because of the fact that we were trying so hard to get this recorded. Um, and again, I just thank you so much for coming on, and to Donovan, thank you for letting us use your, I guess, your room or whatever, and hosting it for us so we can record it. But man, I just can't wait to see what the Lord does for both of us in the future.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on.
Of course, of course.
All right. Pray it blesses somebody.
And with that, another episode of the Young Minds Podcast comes to a close. Always remember, you are never alone, and faith is action. So let's get out there.